Good evening and welcome to the Do Tell Story Swap of Sonoma County. My name is Katie Mangan and I shall be your host this evening. And we have Vicki Ness, who is our technical director. Spring has sprung in Sonoma County. The daffodils have already gone. The grass is really, really green. We've had sunny days. And with the time change, of course, it's dark in the morning, but it's ridiculously light, late afternoon, early evening. So who knows when to come in from playing outside and have dinner. But here we go, because we've got a great evening ahead of us. Just so you know, we have a list of tellers, but we can always add your name. And you can put your name in the chat if you'd like to tell. Stories are to be told and not read, and up to 10 minutes if necessary. During the middle, we'll have a break, and we'll tell you a prompt question. We'll give you a question, and you have the break time, which will be like 5 minutes to think about this. And when we come back, we will introduce ourselves and answer the question. It's a lovely way for us all to get to know each other better. And then after that, Meg Brown will have some announcements, and then we'll go back to telling stories. So let's go to our first teller, who is Vicki Ness. Take it away, Vicki.
Thank you. I'm also doing tech stuff, so bear with me if things are a little slow. Here we go. Alfred was an extremely busy kid, way busier than people realized. But in all of his busyness, why, he still found the time to build a little house, you see, out of popsicle sticks that he glued together. And all the walls and the roof were made of wax paper. And this little house sat on his desk. And he really loved it. Because you see, when the daylight sunlight came bounding in, covering everything with bright light, just baking everything in, the little house, inside the little house, the light would be diffuse and peaceful and quiet. And at night, when his desk lamp was on and everything was fluorescent white or deep dark shadows, why, the little house had diffuse light. There were no deep dark sharp shadows, no glaring light. It was diffuse and quiet. And he had put in the middle of that little house a little plastic dancer. It was a ballet dancer on point, and she was on a little platform, and he put her into his little house to dance in the stillness. Yeah, the doll actually belonged to his sister, but she didn't notice. So he loved that little house with a dancer in her space. Well, as I said, he was very busy, very, very busy. His parents had all kinds of expectations for him, you see. So he should be doing soccer practice. Yes, he should. And of course, he should be getting good grades. And he should be part of the theater group, too, if he could possibly. And what about band practice? Have you been practicing? And he felt as though he was running from a butcher's cleaver. You gotta do, but you're late. And he was just this far ahead of the butcher's cleaver of all the things he had to do. Ooh, ooh, ooh. And it was very stressful for Alfred. But you know, there were times when after school he would wait for his mom to pick him up. He was playing the trombone at this point, and so he had the enormous trombone with him in its big case. And so he shuffled himself away from other kids so he could stand with his trombone case there and wait for his mom to pick him up. And the other kids, you know, a gaggle of laughing, kidding, looking, and they'd look at Alfred and think, well, he's lonely. Or they'd think, well, why is Alfred so sad all by himself? And then they'd go back to their conversations. But the fact was, he wasn't sad, and he wasn't lonely. This was his time to stand and let whatever season was happening sink into him, seep into him like a tea bag in hot water, seeping in so that, for example, one October afternoon, late afternoon, when the cobalt sky was turning darker, He let all the scents of, oh, leaf mold and damp earth and the hint of wood smoke somewhere sink into him. And he'd watch as all the colors changed and the leaves twirled in a slight breeze, and he could feel the chill of the season race up his spine, and he'd feel enervated just as if he took a plunge in a cold pool, and he felt so alive. And it was inside him, you see, that he had a little shelter. It was Alfred's shelter, and the light was diffuse. And there were no sharp angles and no black shadows. It was his space, and it was sacred and quiet, where he could move according to his grace, the music he felt, and he could dance just for a moment in that sacred space to his own tune.
Oh, Vicky, another wonderful story.
That's
Thank
a very rough story. Uh it's a very rough story, and so I was hesitant to even tell it, but there it is. It's short, so hey.
Well, Vicky, thank you for telling us because it's a lovely story. It's short and it's sweet and it's so beautiful, and the little house is gorgeous. We all need a little house like that with
Yes.
a ballerina in there to dance with.
Yes.
And I just love the running from the butcher's cleaver and
Mm,
standing there with his big trombone and letting the seasons seep into him. So again, it's pure vintage Vicky and awesome as always. So thank you, my friend, for bringing us that awesome story.
thank you.
All right, so now we have Laurie Riam. Laurie, welcome to the stage.
Hold on. Hold on. Replace. There we go.
It was February 2020, and my license was expiring. And at the time, the real ID deadline would be in October. So I thought, I'm going to get my real ID now instead of having to go twice in 1 year to DMV, because who wants to do that? So I gathered all the papers, and it seemed like a lot of people I knew would go in and they thought they were ready and they get turned away. Oh, this one's not notarized. That's not signed right. Are you sure your mom's wearing blue socks today? Whatever it was. So I gathered my stuff, held my breath, and went in. I couldn't get an appointment till well after my birthday. And in California, you can't drive with an expired license. So I just had to walk in and hope for the best. So the first gatekeeper, they looked it over and, what are you in for? So, well, I hope not too long. I gave them all the papers. They looked them over. Okay, next. So I go to the next window, wait my turn, get up there, show them the papers, holding my breath. They really took their time studying everything. It's almost like they're trying to catch you at something. Aha, we found something. You're out of here. So I got past all of that. And then it came time for the thumbprint. So I did the thumbprint, and then the woman stopped and she didn't say anything. And she studied my thumb, and then she studied but the file, and she said, this doesn't match. I said, doesn't match what? She says, well, it doesn't match the thumbprint we have on file. I said, well, I don't even remember giving you a thumbprint before. When was this? Oh, it's not dated. I'm like, so much for accuracy. Who knows if it was even my thumb? So I said, well, do you want my left thumb? No, no, it has to be your right thumb. So, so she goes, let's try again. So I'm like warming up my thumb, like, how can I do this the best possible way? Give her the thumbprint again. She looks, she goes, nope, doesn't match. I'm like, well, now what? So she goes back and confers with some other supervisor, and I can see them back there talking and nodding their head. And they both come towards me at the counter, scowling. And they said, well, I don't know what to do. This doesn't match, but we're going to let it go this time. Okay, I hope I don't have to get a thumbprint again, because I'm not sure what they're going to match it to. So that was a relief. I got past the thumbprint test. Then I had to wait in line. Of course, everything's a line. I had to wait in line to get my picture taken. And I was watching how people did it, because I was thinking, well, you don't want to smile really bright on your picture. It looks kind of weird. But I didn't want to look kind of flat and grouchy. So I watched, the 43 people ahead of me in line, and the men would stand there and they get up to the line where you stand on the tape and they look like a mugshot, like, eee. And it was really kind of, let me out of here. But the women were like fancying up their hair and putting on lipstick and like practicing these model poses. Like, that's not me either. So I wasn't sure what to do. But I get up to the line and I'm thinking, well, maybe I'll smile like I'm just about to greet a friend, that kind of anticipatory smile. So it's pleasant, but not way elated. And I stood up at the line, and before I could do much, click, they took my picture. Okay, great. Whatever. Then I have to sign this thing, and it's this tiny gray digital thing. And there's a line, but there's no way you can see what you're signing. And I'm a lefty, and the pen is always on the right. And it was a very short cord. So I'm like trying to get the pen over from the right side and grasp it enough to sign. And I know it was way awkward. I thought, so much for being a real ID and authenticating who you are. They're making it pretty hard to do. The other thing I wondered is why don't they ask you, like, why don't they weigh you or check your height? They don't verify what color your hair is. There's a lot of stuff you could just make up. And I'm like, well, it's, and this is supposed to be a real ID. Like they're really serious with the forms, but then there's all these other loopholes where it doesn't seem to be consistent. Well, I get out of there. I'm just glad to be gone. Get out of there. Wait for my license, hoping it arrives in time. Sure enough, it came just before my birthday. And I open it up and I look at the picture, and my smile isn't too bad. It's just kind of like, it's decent enough. I can live with this for 5 years. But then I look again, and one of my eyeballs is totally missing. I look like it's some kind of alien. And then I look again, and they make embossing all over your face because they do it all over the license. And it looks like I have like a goatee, like there's all kinds of hair right placed on my chin. I'm like, if somebody pulls me over, I'm never going to be able to duplicate this look. It's like some kind of alien with my eyeball missing. I'm like, I can't believe they would take your picture and not look at it before they take the time to laminate it and send it to you. Like, what kind of people are they at DMV? Obviously not very attentive. So I think I need to warn you that if you're gonna go get a real ID, uh, you're thinking you're getting a real ID, but I got a surreal ID.
Oh, Lori, that's great. I love, how your picture turned out with the missing eyeball, and and I love your descriptions of how people go up to the window when they're going to get the photograph taken, smiling or fluffing up their hair. I think that's so great. I did remember when I filled out mine recently, there was all the different color hair you could have, and purple is one of the official colors.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, I thought that's my kind of ID. But it's a great story, and I'm just so sorry that you had such a rotten time. Thank you for telling. Okay, well, moving right along, we have Rose.
Okay. Um, Amal El-Motar wrote a book called The Honey Month. She had a friend that gave her a basket that had 30 jars of honey in it. And she decided that she was going to write every day. She would take one of those jars of honey and she would open it up and she would write something about it. And with her permission, I would like to share Thistle Honey from day 7. I was walking down the path. There was a slight breeze blowing. It was a warm spring day, and I had on my yellow shirt and a blue cardigan. And she spoke to me. Well, hello. You look like summer, she said, and she smiled. And I looked at her and I said, you look like summer too. And she did. She was small, about the size of a 7-year-old. And she had round, full cheeks and a wide smile and a little button nose and blue eyes and brown curly hair that it looked twig tangled. And I said, hello. And I looked at her and she had on a purple tank top and scruffy pants. I said, you look cold. Here. And I took off my cardigan and I handed it to her. And she looked at me with a startled look on her face, almost like she was going to cry. And she grabbed that sweater and bounced off the rock and was gone. And I walked around the rock and she wasn't there. I thought about it as I walked home. Here 1 minute, gone the next. Maybe I hallucinated her, but no, I couldn't have done that because my sweater was gone and I was cold. When I got home, there she was, sitting in the middle of my bed. And I said to her, hello. And she said, I require honey, and it must be thistle honey, very fine. And you may warm my juice of an apple and some warm milk and homemade bread and nothing else. And I looked at her and I said, but I have honey, but it's clover honey. Oh, you horrible, horrible, horrible girl, she said. How could you do this to me? You snatched me and brought me here and you don't have my honey for me. And she said, you gave me a new skin and now I have to serve you because it was a gift freely given. Skin? Skin? Did she mean the sweater? And now you don't know the terms of the compact. Compact? Does she mean contract? I didn't agree to anything. She said, you snatched me. And my mother warned me, don't ever, ever smile. Don't ever be polite. And now she will miss me. And she will have to go and steal one of those babies from one of those ugly farmers. And they will trample on my pansies and break down my asters. And all because you wanted a Thisky for yourself. I don't even know your name. Well, it's Spraggle, but you have to give me a new name. And you have to take care of me. And you have to feed me. Skin? Do you mean the sweater? It wasn't a freely given gift. It was a trade. You stupid, stupid girl. I was there. I know what I said. I said you look like summer. That's right. You said I looked like summer. And it was a compliment. And it made me feel good. And you gave me that compliment, so I gave you my sweater. It was a trade. And she bounced off that bed and out the door. And as she went out the door, she said, I need honey before we can make terms. And she was gone. Now, for the next 2 weeks, I didn't dare go walking down the hills. And if I met her, what would I say to her? Were there more rules that I didn't understand? And then one day I was in town and I went in one of those little shops, you know, the kind it had scented bars of soap and perfumed candles. And it had little jars of jam with a circle of fabric on the top tied with a cute little ribbon. And they had honey, thistle honey, very, very expensive thistle honey. I suppose that I could get by for a few more days with bread and jam, and I bought a jar of thistle honey and I took it home. I unscrewed the lid. It was pale, pale yellow, liquid gold. It smelled heavenly, like honey, like a little bit like apple. Oh, definitely like apple. It tasted like apple, mellow and sweet. And then I thought, gotta go take it to Scraggle. It was raining out, but I put on my wellies and I put on my rubber raincoat and I went running out and up the trail and I was calling, Scraggle, Scraggle. What is it, summer girl? I have honey. I handed her the jar. Mm. And I didn't dare say much. And I said to her, I said, would you trade this jar of honey for that blue cardigan? She was wearing it in the rain and it was wet. And she took it off and she threw it at me and she said, here. And she took that jar of honey and she put it in your pocket. And I wanted to say, can we be friends? Can we go chase butterflies together? Can we run up the path together? But I didn't dare. Who knows? There might be a rule that I didn't know. And she said, well, what are you waiting for, summer girl? You can't have an adventure in the rain. Come on. Of course you couldn't. You couldn't have an adventure in the rain. And I reached out and I grabbed her hand and we went running up the path together. And that is the story of Thistle Honey.
Wonderful, Rose. So beautifully told with all your different expressions. And the honey, actually, the tasting of the honey was amazing. And your different voices, it was very clear who was talking. It was just a great story. Are you going to be telling that at genre
Yes.
next week?
Yes.
Okay.
I want that story to be perfect.
Well, I know you've been working really hard and it is perfect. It's lovely. So I know everybody's going to enjoy it. Thank you so much for
Thank you.
telling it to us.
Thank you for listening.
Oh, a pleasure. Okay, so Sharon, would you be our next teller?
This is a summer story. It's a true personal story, but it's hard to feel like summer, at least where I am. It's raining again today. But summer school for teachers is just heavenly. It's just perfect. You're with these wonderful little children, in my case, second graders, all morning. And then just when you get tired, the bell rings and you're done. And the day is done and you go home. You can have a wonderful summer lunch like chicken salad with grapes in it on a croissant, and go for a long swim and take a nap. It's the perfect balance of work and vacation and work and vacation. And I was especially looking forward to this one because I was going to be teaching for the first time migrant education. Now, the migrant kids, to qualify for this program, have to belong to a family that has moved looking for work more than once in the last year. And as a result, they're typically behind their peers. And the idea of the migrant ed program is to try to bring them up to speed, or at least give them a boost to catch up with other people. So I was excited to be part of it and I was ready to go. So when the bell rang on Monday morning at the very beginning, I ran to my spot on the sidewalk under the eaves of the building, looking out over the blacktop. And then I saw that none of those children had moved because the bell rang. Those kids swinging were still swinging. The ones on the monkey bars were still climbing. Nobody paid any attention to that ringing bell. So I looked around to the other teachers, and they were standing in a cluster holding coffee cups and chatting. They hadn't paid any attention to the bell either. Now, I had been in school for all of my life, it seemed like, and you are controlled by bells. If the bell rings, you get to work. If the bell rings, you quit. You don't just go on with what you're doing. So I was thoroughly puzzled by that. And in about, I don't know, 5 or more minutes, one of the teachers said, well, we better get this going. And so she came and stood by me and lined up, and then another teacher, until all of them were assembled in a line. And one or two of the kids noticed that the teachers were lined up. And so they came running, and other kids saw them running. And pretty soon we had all of the kids assembled in lines in front of the teachers where they belonged. And in we went, having lost at least 10 minutes of valuable instructional time. So I was seriously shocked by this, but that was not my last shock of the day. As we came into class, some of the kids took off their backpacks and sat down, but this one little girl ran like a maniac around the room, hitting every desk as she went by, and sometimes hitting the people that were in them. And I was just about to ask the teacher's aide to collect her and take her to the office to calm down when I noticed the way the other children were responding to her. Several of them got up and went right to her. One put his arms around her, one smoothed her hair, one patted her hand, one held her hand, and that little group led her to her seat. And by the time she sat down, she was completely calm, and she stayed calm the rest of the day. Now, this was really puzzling to me. My whole training was you do not reward bad behavior. But look how well it worked. And look how happy everybody was that they had accomplished that. And then came shock number 3. It was almost time to go home, the last half hour of the morning. And it was almost 4th of July. So the kids were all coloring pictures of flags, fireworks, Betsy Ross, patriotic pictures. And I looked and realized there were 32 pictures I was going to have to display. And I had a string that ran from one corner to the other on the ceiling so that you could hang those things with clothespins. But that was going to take a serious chunk out of my croissant eating time and my swimming and my nap. And I just didn't want to do it. And so then I got what I thought was a brilliant idea. And I said, let's have a contest, boys and girls. Let's vote. We'll pick the best picture and we'll put a gold star on it and we'll put that on the bulletin board. And then the one that gets the second most votes, we'll put a silver star on that. We'll put that one on the bulletin board. And the one that has the third most votes, we'll give it a red star. We'll have 3 beautiful pictures on the bulletin board. And little Miguel didn't even look up. He just kept coloring and he said, let's not. And I said, you don't want to have a contest? Who doesn't want to have a contest? Your picture is really good. You might win. And he spoke to me then as if I were someone a little dim, perhaps a little hard to grasp concepts. And he said, all right, look at all of these pictures. They're very good, aren't they? And I looked and I said, well, yes, I would have to say that they are. He said, all right, if we pick 3 of them and put them up on that board, those 3 people are going to be happy and all of the rest of us are going to be sad. And that afternoon, as I was hanging all those pictures up on the string, I thought, I've only been with these children for one day, and they have transformed the way I feel about competition in the classroom. They have changed the way I feel about how you deal with bad behavior. They've even changed the way I feel about something as fundamental as time. These children have a lot to learn, but they also have a lot to teach.
Oh, that is such a great story, Sharon.
But
Thank you for telling us. Again, I think we've heard that once years ago. It's such a classic. It's so beautiful. And I love all the three shocks that you get and how you explain them. And I love Miguel, how he's so patient with you and gives you some wisdom. Beautifully told, as always. Thank you so much. So let me just see. So we have, I have a story to tell, and then we have no one else.
Alicia, do you have a story?
Do you want to? Oh, that would be great. Alicia, would you like to tell us yours? Please, please. You there?
Yes, I'm here and enjoying all of you, but I'm really not in the space for telling tonight.
No, no, I totally understand. That's fine.
Yeah,
Okay,
thank you.
no worries. So why don't I tell my story then? And then, or we could take a break now and see if other people want to, take a short break and see if other people want to sign up, and we'll go on from there. Does that sound good? Okay, so um, why don't we come back in about 7 minutes, 7:45? Does that make sense to everyone? And then let me know, or either put it in the chat that you would like to tell. That would be awesome.
are you
Great.
going to give us the prompt before we go?
Oh, that's a great idea. Thank you, Sharon. The prompt is, what small thing or things brings you joy? What small things bring you joy? Great. So we'll see you back at about 7:45. Good. And Vicky, you could pause the recording. Okay. Okay, welcome back, everyone. And we're going into the second half. We have 4 new tellers. Awesome. So that's excellent. So I'm going to start off and I'm going to answer the prompt question of what small thing brings you joy. My name is Katie Mangan and I live in Santa Rosa, Sonoma County. And one of my greatest joys is when I first wake up, I go outside, doesn't matter what time it is, and I go and listen to the birds if they're awake and singing, or I'll sometimes take out my drum and I will drum the sun up, or I'll just sit there and listen for the owls. So that is my way, how I start the day, and one of my greatest joys. So thank you. So who should we have next? Vicky, do you want to be next?
Sure. I'm Vicki Ness, and I live in Sebastopol, California. And one of the most consistent little joys I have in my day is we get up in the dark and like 5:30, and I take the dog and the cat out and do my things. Is to be able to sit with my cup of tea and watch the sun come up. And the sun is off to my left, but I watch the trees become illuminated. And that's what's so magical, is watching them come into view and watching them turn sort of brassy, bronzy, and then all the full colors of morning, flood back in with the light. And of course, anytime I get a decent cookie, that's ranks for, yeah, either one of those.
Thank you. Chester, what small things bring you joy?
Well, our grandson, one of them lives about 45 minutes away, and he just turned, in fact, he's getting ready to turn 21, I guess. But he likes to come over and sneak into the house and surprise us. And it's just, and my granddaughter, they live together while she's going to school and he's working. But just the fact that the two grandkids like to go see their grandparents. It's just all those years, 15 years ago, the good times when they were kids, it's really paying off now. They like to come see us. They don't stay too long, but it's really nice. So
Beautiful. Thank you, Chester. Sharon, what brings you joy?
Oh, these bring me joy. I just am so happy to have something like this, even in this rainy place. So that's what.
Oh,
Oh, and I'm in Bremerton, in Washington.
thank you. Rose, what brings you joy?
I have a front flower bed in my front yard that as I've gotten older and hadn't have a harder time bending down to garden or whatever, I am happy that my daisies, I have purple daisies and yellow daisies and white daisies that come back year after year. And the other day, as I went out and I was walking out just to take out my garbage, and I'm looking, here is a small cluster of yellow daisies and a white one and a couple of purple ones, all kind of clumped together, just as if some fairy had come with her magic ribbon and tied them together to make a bouquet. And it really brought me a lot of joy. And when I see all of my daisies out front, I remember the day that there was a fairy bouquet there in my front yard.
Great. Thank you, Rose. Meg, what brings you joy?
Well, I have a pretty good life. So I do a lot of things that bring me joy. But last week I had this experience that really, I was driving home from my daughter's house where I had been spending about 3 hours with my 5-year-old grandson. And the first thing I did was pick him up from school. And then we walked home and we stopped at the playground and we played at the playground. And then we went home and we had a snack. And then we played puppets and made up our whole little story, which is one of the things I love to do with him. And then we were building with the Legos. And then she finally came home and I got to hug her and say, goodbye, I got to go home. And I'm driving home and I'm thinking, oh, I am so happy. And I have to say that there's something about those little ones that just is joyful.
That's lovely. Thank you, Meg, for sharing. Beth, what brings you joy?
It's great fun to hear it all. I'm Beth Wakely. I live in Sebastopol. And I have we've been here for 50 years, and our redwood tree has expanded exponentially. It's now more than double the size it used to be. And I have little nuthatches that go up and down this time of year, and they hide behind the bark, which kind of concerns me. There might be some beetles in there, but it is at this point that and the hummingbirds. And I was fortunate enough to get up in the middle of that night of our lunar eclipse, and I've got to sit outside with a blanket, just watch it until the mist came in, and it was spectacular. It was very profound. So that's a small thing, but a big thing. So it's hard not to love those morning birds. Thank you. And all of you.
Thank you, Beth. We love you too. You bring us great joy. Walter, what brings you joy?
I'm Walter. I'm from Sacramento. I live halfway between two Paneras, one on the east and one on the left. And I go to Panera on a regular basis. I'm in there probably 4 days a week. I'll go read my newspaper, read my books, meet with friends, talk to people. And whether I go east or west depends on what my morning errand trips are. When I'm in a Panera and I see a friend walk in with another friend or whatever, and they sit down and have lunch, as I get up to leave, I walk up to the cashier. Now, I've been doing this for 5 or 6 years, so I know these people. I said, see Vicky over in that corner? And they go, yeah, okay. I want to buy her a chocolate chip cookie. They go get a chocolate chip cookie, put it on the plate, take it over and say, from either from a friend or from an unknown admirer. And that's it.
Hey, y'all, you want to come to my Panera anytime. You show up. I'll be there with
I
cookies.
do it. And sometimes they'll go, who did that? Who did that? Who did that? No, people get agitated, whatever, and they know they can't say. They'll go to the manager, Preston. I know Preston's now the general manager. I knew him when he started out as a cashier. He says, I can't tell you. I can't tell you. What's funny is some people will figure it out because they know I go to Panera and they'll track me down and they'll thank me. And some people just never forget it. And it's an unknown pleasure.
Sounds so fun. Thank you. Philvella, what brings you joy?
Well, to continue the seasonal theme, I really love seeing all the tiny blossoms come up and like the plum blossoms in my parents' backyard right now. I'm currently staying with them for a bit on Cobb, California, and there's just these lovely tiny little blossoms all over the branches that look kind of like snowflakes. And I love the little tiny purple flowers you'll see in the grass. And I also, it's not seasonal, but I love soap bubbles. And when you get a really good soap bubble when you're washing the dishes, you can see like the entire room reflected back in it. And it looks like you're looking into like an alternate universe. So I love those.
Oh, wonderful, joyful moments. Thank you so much. Laurie, what brings you joy?
Well, the question was what small things bring you joy? So I took that literally.
Good.
And I wrote down 3 things. One is I grow herbs and greens, and right now the arugula is coming up, and it's really tiny and coming up in little rows. So I like the seedlings because they're so tender and innocent looking. And I also really enjoy receiving a letter where there's a commemorative stamp on it because it's like somebody took time to buy something with a theme. And I always send commemorative stamps on my postage, depending on the person and what their interests are. And the third thing, small thing that I really like are pine nuts.
Thank you for those small things. Perfect. Fina, what brings you joy?
Well, I've been working hard in my garden in the last 3 days because, of course, the weeds got right by me. And now I'm working hard to get rid of them. But among them are the seedlings of the volunteer flowers that I really depend on in my garden: bachelor buttons, poppies, sweet peas, and cosmos. And so those, some big, I mean, my sweet peas are already this big, but the bachelor buttons are this big. And it's just a delight to see that future gorgeous garden underneath the weeds.
We should all be so lucky to go to Fina's garden because it's the most beautiful place, very joyful. So, Deb, what brings you joy?
There. Hi. Things that surprise me. When I'm thinking things are going to be kind of a little difficult or cold and stuff, and something surprises me. Like today, I looked and saw all these bulbs I had planted for hyacinth flowers, which I've never planted before. They'd all popped up, little heads poking up, and little flowers, and they smell really good. I'd never grown them before. I like anything bulbs. It's very joyful to me at this time of year, the daffodils and all these things going, because they sprout right up, then they shoot up pretty fast and burst into bloom so brightly. So that's a joyful thing to me. And I also like the little Pacific chorus frogs that you hear at night. I feel very grateful that I am far enough out in the country that I can hear frogs at this time of year. And I have this cat. She's not in the picture here. No, she's not coming in, but I open windows for her so she won't be stuck in the house too much. And I end up looking out the window as much as she does. Sometimes she doesn't want to come out, and it gets me looking out and hearing the chorus frogs. So there's a lot to be joyful about. And of course, children happy who are surprise me sometimes with how much joy and hope they have, and trust. It's a beautiful thing and brings me joy. Thanks for the question.
Thank you, Deb, for your answer. Renu, what brings you joy? What brings you small joys?
Everything. We can choose to be happy or unhappy. I've chosen to be happy. So when I wake up in the morning, I'm grateful that I'm still alive. So I'm happy. And then when I come down and I do my chanting, I'm happy. Now I'm learning to chant the names, 1,000 names of Goddess Parvati or Goddess Lakshmi. And that makes me very happy because I'm learning quite fast with the goddess's blessings. Then, of course, spending time with my dog, spending time in the garden, recording my videos, recording my stories, listening to stories, all that gives me great joy. Thank you, Katie, for that beautiful question.
Oh, thank you. Well, it's Vicky's question. She comes up with the best questions. It is a great question, and there's some wonderful answers, and thank you. Alicia, what brings you joy?
Well, all of you tonight, in particular, there are lots of things that bring me joy. I too wake up in the morning giving thanks, and I have a hibiscus flower, and it blooms 7 flowers right next to my bed on my birthday. And I thought, well, that's pretty darn sweet. And then you mentioned small things, and I'm getting ready to have a booth at the Marin Powwow. Oh, I'm sorry, I'm in San Geronimo Valley, which is in Marin County. And the Marin American Indian Alliance is having our 4th powwow for Marin County. And I'm making a lot of little, let's see, I don't know if you can see her.
Yes.
Can you see her well enough? Let's see, what do I need to do? A light maybe?
Hold it.
Oh, I know, it's the camera. It's
go.
on this HD camera, and I don't know how I got there or how to get rid of it. But I use corn husk to make a variety of dolls, and this one is one of the hula series with her lei and doing her dancing. So those, yeah, lots of things, and just choosing helps a lot. You just choose to be happy, and even when my back hurts. So thank you very much for letting me speak here, and good to see and hear all of you.
Thank you for showing us your doll. It's just stunningly beautiful.
Oh, thank you.
All right, so now let's get back to our stories, and let's welcome Chester to the stage.
Well, it's nice to be here. Oops, we ready to go?
Chester, go ahead and tell your story.
No, I'm so sorry. It's Meg.
Did I miss somebody?
I just have a couple of announcements that I think are really important, but let Chester tell, and then I'll come in.
No,
and
it was my mistake, Meg. I do apologize.
Well, it's
Sorry,
okay.
Chester.
Well, excuse me, Chester, just 1 minute. I'll be quick.
I want to hear what you have to
right,
say.
sorry, guys. Yeah, well, there's some really good stuff going on. That's why I wanted to interrupt you. And the first thing is that in here in California, the Storyteller Association of California has a annual meeting, which is coming up on April 11th, and they'll be getting together and talking about business, I expect. But the really important thing is that Liz Nichols, and I hope many of you know her. I know she's been a guest teller here at the Swap and always tells wonderful stories and has such a great attitude. She is the 2026 Regional Gem honoree. And I just think I'm just so happy for her because she is such a wonderful and generous teller. So I wanted to let you know about that. She will be, the meeting is from 11 to 12 on April 11th. And then a little break there. And then at 12:30, she is going to be telling about an hour's worth of stories. So she'll be having a little concert after that. Check it out on the SAC website and you can get all those details. I believe they are going to record it also, the meeting and the story, so you can definitely hear Liz. So that's number one. The second thing I thought was really interesting is that the Bay Area Storytelling Festival is going to be in April this year. It's April 26th. It is going to be returning to Orinda, so hopefully it will be bringing out all of our friends from the more Central Bay Area to come and listen to stories. So far, they have Andy Offit is one of the tellers, Matoko, who is wonderful. I've heard her, and Jasmine Cardenas. I think that's probably only a partial list. I think they're probably getting some more. So again, that's something that's posted up on the SAC website, so you can check it out. And they will be also recording that. So, and then they'll be posting it, I believe, on YouTube's. But it is a wonderful in-person experience. And for all of us who love to hear people actually telling stories in person, that's a great opportunity. And then finally, we have genre, as usual, every month. And that's March 18th. So that's coming up in about 8 days or so, about a week. Myths, folk tales, fantasy, and fairy tales. And Rose will be telling her story at the genre. So that's something also. You can get all of the information about how to participate in these events on that SAC website, which is storysac.com, I believe, or something. But just put in Storyteller Association of California, and you will get in and be able to check out all the things that they're offering. And now let's welcome Chester. Thank you, Chester.
Well, thank you. I have a Nostradine story. It's the only Nostradine story I know. Back in the height of the COVID stuff, I was tuning in some night, and a guy from Kentucky or Tennessee told this story, and it was a short one, so I could remember it, and I just kind of like it. It's kind of a warped sense of humor, anyway, I guess. And I guess most of you probably know Nostradine, the wise guy from, I guess, from India all the way to North Africa. I'm not exactly sure, but anyway, Nostradine was by the river one day. He was fishing. And he'd look up the river and down the river, and he was fishing. The water's flowing pretty strong there. And he saw a guy coming up on the other side of the river. He looked up the river and down the river and went about his fishing. And the guy kept on coming. And he finally got on the other side of the river, and he could see that he was yelling. And the guy was yelling at him. And Nasruddin kind of looked at him and said, yeah, what do you want? And the guy said, how do you get to the other side? And Nasruddin looked up the river and down the river and finally said, what'd you say? And the guy said, how do you get to the other side? And Nasruddin looked at him and said, you are on the other side. And that's the only one I know.
That's perfect. Thank you so much, Chester. Great. Good sense of humor. And I guess it was easy to remember. I was very impressed that you could remember for so long. Thank you. Deb, please come to the stage.
Okay. Hello. I had mentioned last month that I was going to work or try to make a story because I usually don't tell stories in your group, and I need to work on it. But I came up with a little thought. being as it's St. Patrick's Day next week at this time of year in March, and um, I thought of a girl that I went to school with, who was Irish or part Irish, and a piano recital that I was in with her when I was in middle school. So I'm going to start my story now. Okay, let's see. It goes, when I was a girl, um, we always celebrated St. Patrick's Day around the 17th of March, of course, at school. And a lot of the kids in our school were of Irish descent. And I would ask my mother if I was of Irish descent, and she says, "Oh, yeah, you are." And no one was quite sure who was Irish, but her father said he was Irish. And then we had our uncle who used to dye his shoes green because our uncle really liked to spend a lot of time visiting the drinking establishments in whatever area he happened to be in at the time, Uncle Art. And I was fond of him. I didn't know him, see him much, but I did like the man. And he had green suede shoes. So that was the luck of the Irish in my family. We had the luck to enjoy beer, most of us, and music, I think, and dance somewhat. But this girl, Marianne McLeod, her mother came directly from Ireland, and her name was McLeod, and that's an Irish name. And she would wear tartans from that part of the world that were woven in a plaid. And her mother had married her father during the Second World War, I guess, and he had brought home a bride from Ireland. And Marianne knew how to play a piano very nicely, and she would play like she was sort of like the star piano player. In the fifth grade, we had kids would play, and she could just wing something out, nice little piece. Well, I went on to middle school, and middle school was sort of like this awkward time of an already fairly awkward childhood. And I was not really feeling like being up on stage in a piano recital, and my mother fell in love with this idea of having a piano. So we had bought one, and my sister and I were to take lessons. And I liked it all enough, but I didn't like pounding away on those simple little kids' songs that they'd start you out on. Meanwhile, I was in middle school. I was getting older, and I was feeling critical of myself for not being a better player. My little sister worked a little harder than me, and she played a little straight through. So when it was time for our piano recital, she and I went, and I went through my piano piece, and I slipped a finger. And that was like, I dread, I just nearly froze, ashamed that I had slipped a finger and made a mistake. But I kept going, and I finished my piece. Then my little sister came up. She was 2 years younger, and she went through her piece pretty well and did it nice. And then, of all things, who appeared was my classmate, Marianne McLeod, the great pianist. At least she was now. It had been 3 years since I'd heard her play, and she had progressed to where she was now winging out in front of us all Debussy's Arabesque Number 2. And it just filled the whole room with sound. It was like bum 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 bum. And I was just my job was like to the floor, how good she was. And I was sitting here in my awkward self-conscious self, but sitting little sister's a little better, and Marianne McLeod is flying up to the heavens with the beautiful song she's doing here. But I'm glad, as I recall it, that I got to see that. About 3 years later, however, I had made up my mind that piano was a little more dramatic than I was prepared to take on. And I ended up listening to Janis Joplin and Led Zeppelin with my friend Sherry, learning how to form our hats over our faces and enjoy all the cool things that were going on in the 60s. And I've always loved to hear music of all kinds ever since. And that's the luck of the Irish for me, that I have the luck to continue to enjoy song and music, and the luck to have known others who have done beautiful things with song and music and be inspired by them. Thank you. That's my little story. A little bit of Irish in there, I guess, came up.
That is great, Deb. I love it. A wonderful story. You've got everything in there. The green suede shoes, I think, is such Everybody should have a pair of green suede shoes. So fun.
My uncle. Oh, yeah. Yeah. Thank you. That was. It's. I'm trying to learn how to do this, and you a lot of good tellers, and I finally think maybe just do it. It can happen. Thank you. It was kind of fun.
Well, and you did it. And it was very interesting. I loved how you felt about at that piano recital and how you described that. And yeah, and how you did that bit with your friend playing the piano. I mean, it was so nicely told. Thank you, Deb. You should
Thank you.
please tell us the story more often.
Oh,
yeah, come to office hours again. We'd love to see you. Thank you so much.
Thank you guys for being there.
So our next teller is Meg Brown.
There we go. Oops, unmute. Okay, unmuted. Well, this is a story, very different, but one that you probably know, but I just love it. And so I'm going to tell it tonight. And this is called Stone Soup. Great children's story, but having a good lesson. Well, there were 3 soldiers, and they were coming home from the war. And it was cold. The snow was on the ground. They were walking through the forest. And the first soldier says, "Oh, I am so hungry. It's been 3 days since we've had any food." And the second soldier said, "Yes, it feels like my stomach is trying to eat itself. I'm so hungry." And the third one said, "And I'm so tired. I wish we had a nice warm place to sleep." But they were going home, and so they were happy enough. Well, they got to the top of the ridge and they looked down into the little valley, and there they saw a village. And they thought, maybe the people there in that village, maybe they will have some food for us and maybe a stable where we can sleep the night and be warm. Let's go down there and talk to them. Well, the people in the village, they saw those 3 soldiers coming down and they thought, "Oh no, soldiers are always hungry. We gotta hide our food. Otherwise they'll just eat everything in the whole village." And so they went and they hid their carrots under a blanket, and they put the barley under the straw, and they put the beef down in the cellar, and the potatoes under the bed. And then they came out. Well, the young soldiers went to the first house and they said, "Do you have anything to eat? We are so hungry. We haven't eaten in 3 days." "Well," said the owner of the house, "nope, we're hungry too. We haven't eaten in 2 days. The harvest was not very good." And so the soldiers went to the next house and they asked if there was anything that they could share food for them to eat. "Oh, no. We also had a bad harvest, and well, there's just nothing to eat in this village." And so on and so on. They went to each house, and nobody had anything that they could eat. And so the soldiers felt, well, they thought, and they started to talk. And they thought, let's see if we can manage with all these people who have good reasons why they don't have any food. What can we do? Well, the soldier thought, we had a captain, and he something about what to do when there's no food. He taught us to make something called stone soup. Let's make stone soup for the village. And so the soldiers gathered all the villagers together, and they were looking very hungry and very sad. And the soldier said, "We have an idea. We can feed everyone. All we need for you to do is to bring a big cauldron and put it in the middle of the square and light a fire under it and put lots and lots of water in it." So the villagers thought, that's an interesting thing. We'll go along with them. And so they put the cauldron in the middle of the square, and they built a fire under it, and they brought lots and lots and lots of buckets of water until there was a lot of water in the cauldron. And then the soldier said, "Now I want you to find me 3 large, smooth stones. Bring them to me." And so they found the stones, they brought them to the soldier, and he put them into the water, into the cauldron that was now beginning to be very hot. And he said, "We are going to make stone soup." Well, he started to stir the water around. And the people were thinking, what? What is he talking about? That's pretty amazing. Well, two of the children went off, and pretty soon they came back with some salt and some pepper, and they put it into the cauldron. And then one of the villagers said, I think that all good soup needs to have an onion. And so he ran to his house and he dug under his bed and he pulled out several big fat onions and he brought them to the cauldron, chopped them up, put that into the cauldron. And the soldier stirred and stirred. And then a woman said, she went home, and when she came back, she had her apron just full of carrots. She said, "Carrots and onions are always good together, always." So here, they chopped up the carrots, and they put that in the cauldron. Well, another one of the villagers looked around, and he ran back to his house. And under the coverlid on the bed, he pulled out 3 big cabbages, and he brought them back to the cauldron. He said, "Cabbages are always good. They fill you up." Chopped up the cabbages and put those into the cauldron. And the soldier stirred and stirred and stirred. Well, by this time, there was a wonderful aroma beginning to waft up into the air, so that all the villagers were getting very, very hungry and had a lot of expectation. And so then another villager, he thought, and he ran down to that cellar and he brought back some nice meat, which they cut up and they put into that cauldron. And it was just beginning to smell so, so very good. And then another villager, he ran into the barn and he pulled out that barley and he brought it and he put the barley into the cauldron and they stirred it and stirred it around. And he says, "Barley, that's the thing that really fills you up." Now that soup, oh my goodness, that aroma was just so enticing. And the soldier said, "We need to have a big table so that we can all have some of this soup." Oh, the villagers were very excited about that. So they brought out a big table. They brought out bowls and cups and chairs, and they all sat down and began to ladle out that big, beautiful soup. And then the baker comes along and he has under his arms just a load of beautiful long pieces of bread, loaves of bread. And they slice that bread up. Someone else brought some butter. They buttered it. Oh my goodness, they had such a wonderful, wonderful feast. And as they ate and they talked and they laughed, and then they began to sing, and they sang and they danced, and they had such a wonderful time all along the evening. And all they said, "Oh my goodness, all this is because we had stone soup." Well, finally, the dark had come and they were beginning to get tired. And so the soldiers said, "Well, do you have a stable or something where we could go and bed down for the night so we'll be warm?" "Oh," said the mayor to the first soldier, "oh no, you come, I have a bed for you." And then there was the baker, and the baker said to the second soldier, "Oh, no, 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 that's not good enough for you. You come and stay at my house. I have a very comfortable bed." And finally, the priest stood up and said to the third soldier, "You come and you sleep in the rectory. It's nice and warm. We have a comfortable bed." And so the soldiers had a wonderful night of rest on top of a very full stomach. Well, in the morning, everyone got up and the soldiers got ready to leave. And all the people in the village, they were so thankful. They said, "Now we will never, ever have too little to eat because now we know how to make the stone soup." And the soldier said, "Yes, because it's all in the knowing how to make it." And that's the end of the story.
Oh, that is a wonderful story, Meg. So beautifully told. Thank you. And it made me so hungry,
Yeah.
especially the bread and the butter. Thank you.
Wonderful little story.
It
You're
is
welcome.
great. Just a magnificent telling. Thank you. Valvella, will you tell us a story, please?
Well, to continue with the food theme, I have some food from another part of the world. And this is the story of an old man planting carob trees. And it's a Honi the Circle Maker story, although Honi, in other stories, he summons rain if there'd been a drought, but he summoned enough that it started to flood the village, so he told God to stop it. And God listened to him, and people were fine. But in this story, Honi isn't the main character. This story is about an old man we don't know the name of. One day, Honi was walking through the village and he came to the outside and he saw on the hillside there a man who was so old he could have been Honi's grandfather's father. And Honi's grandfather was very old. And this old man was on his hands and knees planting carob trees. Now, carob trees take a while to grow. And so Honi stood there and he saw the old man patting down the earth around the trees, giving them some water so that their roots would be able to take. And he began to laugh. He said, "Old man, what are you doing planting these carob trees? You will never taste any of the fruit on these carob trees." And the old man continued to pat the dirt around the seedling. And then he looked up at Honi and he said, "Young man, when I was your age, there were carob trees all around my home because my father and my grandfather planted carob trees so I could eat the fruit. So today, I am planting these carob trees so that one day my children and grandchildren will be able to eat their fruit." That is the end of that story.
Oh, thank you. Beautifully told. Thank you, Valvella. I love that. Yeah. It's like what planting, is it olive trees? You plant a vineyard for your son, but you plant an olive grove for your grandchildren or something. Yeah. Very sweet. So please come visit us more often. And when you visit, please bring a story. Doesn't matter what length, like no, under 10 minutes, but this is lovely. Thank you again. These are great, great stories. Renu, please welcome Renu to the stage.
Sorry, I'm trying to. There you are. I got you.
Thank you. Thank you, Katie. This is a story from Orissa, which is on the northeast part of India. It's just about Tamil Nadu, then Andhra Pradesh, then Orissa. So it's all on the coast of the Bay of Bengal. It's a folk tale. So once upon a time, in a small village in Orissa, there lived a man called Bimal. Bimal was extremely wealthy. He had so much money, he didn't know what to do with it. But he didn't like to spend a paisa. He was a miser. Everybody in the village called him Kanjus Babu, which meant stingy man. Bimal didn't like to be called like that, but then he couldn't stop them. One day, Bimal had to go to the next village. He had some work. He had to meet somebody to start a business with him. He started off early in the morning in order to avoid the midday sun. He walked along, but he was busy thinking about how much money he would make from that business transaction. He failed to see the beautiful trees, the colorful flowers, the green paddy fields, the water flowing by, and the birds chirping in the sky. He just walked, calculating this much and this much. How much will I add to my wealth? And finally, he reached the village. He went to the designated place and waited. But the man he was supposed to meet didn't turn up. He waited and waited and waited. Now the sun was rising higher and higher up in the sky and was getting hot. Oof, where is this man? He thought. But there was no sign of him. Now, Bimal didn't want to waste money spending on food in that village. He wanted to go back home and have the food there. I better go back home. Doesn't look like anything is going to happen today. So he decided to walk back. He didn't want to hire a bullock cart that would cost money. So he started to walk. And he walked and he walked and he walked. Ah, the sweat was pouring off his head. His kurta was wet. But still, he didn't want to waste money on a ride. He continued to walk. He was very, very hungry. His stomach was rumbling, brr, 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 and he was very thirsty. I'm so hungry. But still, I will not spend my precious money on a meal outside. Now, as he walked, he saw this tall palm tree, and right on top were ripe, juicy dates. If only I could get those dates. I don't have to spend any money. It'll be free of cost. But how do I get them? He had been born and brought up in a village. He had climbed coconut trees, palm trees as a child. But now I'm grown up. Can I still climb? Why not? If I can save money, why not? He thought to himself. Then he looked around some more and saw that there was a pond. Clear water. Now I can quench my thirst. So he scooped up some water. He drank it all up. It was really sweet and cold to the taste. I feel so much better. Now I have the energy to climb, he thought. And slowly he started to climb. Climbed up, up. Halfway up, he looked down. Ground is quite far. Oh, I hope I don't fall. He continued up and up. As he reached the top, the palm tree started to bend. And he thought, oh no, now if I fall, I'm going to die. What will happen to all my wealth, all that money? Oh no. I better say something to God. I take a vow that if I don't fall, if I reach the ground safely, if I have some dates in my pocket to eat, I will feed 100 people. 100 people. Can you imagine that myself feeding 100 people? He didn't even calculate how much it would cost. The tree was straight. He slowly went up, plucked all the dates, put it in the pocket of his kurta, and started going down. Now, halfway down, he looked down and said, it's actually the ground is not too far. Why should I feed 100? 50 is enough. After all, I have to keep my promise. That's all that matters. He continued down. And as he reached the ground, he saw that it was just hardly anything. Why should I feed 50? 10 people. That itself is a big thing. I'll have to spend quite a lot of money. That is enough. Promise is a promise. Now he reached the ground safely and he thought, why 10 people? It will cost me too much. I think one person is more than enough. I'm keeping my promise. One person, yes. Now as he walked chomping on the dates, he thought, whom should I call? He remembered Kumar, the poor laborer in his village. Kumar had a stomach problem. Every time he said, my stomach is hurting, my stomach. That man will not be able to eat anything. I just have to give him a simple meal and maybe a few coins. Best thing to call Kumar. So he went back home. And he told his wife all about the adventure. He said, tomorrow I'm going to call Kumar for lunch. Ensure you make a meal just enough for one person. And when he's leaving, you need to give him a few copper coins. That is the usual, thing that you do when somebody comes to eat and you have to give them some money. Okay, the wife said. That evening, he went and invited Kumar. Kumar was really shocked. What? Kanjus Babu is calling me to his house for a meal? Of course, he agreed. Yes, I'll come tomorrow. Next morning, Kumar got ready and went to Bimal's house. Now, Bimal, unfortunately, had to go out on a very urgent errand. Maybe he could make some money, so he left. He told his wife, listen, remember, Kumar will be coming. Give him a good meal. Ensure that he's happy and satisfied when he leaves. Let there be no complaints. And remember the coins. Okay, said the boy. Kumar came there. He was very happy that Bimal was not at home. As soon as he entered and sat down, the wife laid out a banana leaf. But as soon as he looked at the leaf, Kumar started shouting, my stomach. I don't think I can eat. I cannot eat anything. My stomach is hurting. But You have anything else? Oh, yeah, I'll give you some coins. She gave him some coins. Copper coins? No use. This man, Kanjus Babu, is really horrible. I'm going to go. No, wait. What do you want? Give me 50 silver coins, then I'll keep my mouth shut. 50? But then she remembered her husband had said, let him be happy and satisfied when he leaves. She went inside, quickly counted out 50 coins, put them in a bag and gave it to Kumar. Kumar was thrilled. He didn't show anything outside. Actually got 50 silver coins. Yes! He went back home. Now Bimal came back. What? You gave 50 silver coins? I'll go back to Kumar's house and get the money. He left. As he was reaching Kumar's hut, Kumar's wife saw him. Kumar, he's coming. Do something. So Kumar immediately lay on the ground. Oh, my stomach. I don't know. I went to Kanju's Babu's house for a meal. I don't know what he gave me. Some spoiled, rotten food. Oh, I'm going to die. His wife started to cry. Oh, what will I do? My husband is gone. What will I do for my life? Oh. She started crying louder and louder. Vival got scared. Oh no, they're shouting so much. Neighbors are already opening their doors. I better do something. What shall I do? Quickly, he untied his gold bracelet, went inside and told the wife, yeah, take this. Use it for all your expenses. Please, don't make noise. And he left quickly back to his house. Umar and his wife had a wonderful time laughing. We really fooled that man. Vimal went back home and he thought to himself, wow, I could have fed 1,000 people with the money I gave that man. I'm never going to take a vow again in my life, he said. That's the end of the story.
I knew that was wonderful. You're so good. Just, climbing up that tree and the drinking of the water. Oh, it's just priceless. Thank you. Such a great teller. You really are. Well, great. Well, we have one more story, I think. Okay. Are you all ready? Eleanor was spending part of the summer with her family at their cousin's house. The cousins lived in this huge, rambling old house in a small village, which was right by the sea. And Eleanor woke up one morning pretty early and realized it was going to be the most beautiful summer day. And so she quickly got dressed and went to the kitchen and ate her breakfast. And before she went outside, the cook said to her, now, Eleanor, don't forget, don't be late for dinner. And before the cook could say anything else, Eleanor raced off. She went down the lawn and down a few steps and onto the beach. And as she stepped onto the beach, the sea mist blew in. It was very magical and mysterious. And she walked along the beach in this mist. But as the sun got a little higher, the mist evaporated. And she looked out at the sea, and the tide was coming in, and there were these big rolling waves. And then she saw something that at first she could not believe. It was a white horse, and it was galloping in on the waves. And the horse raced onto the beach and they went up and over the sand dunes and disappeared. Well, Eleanor started to run as fast as she could after it. But the sand was thick and it was difficult for her to run in. But when she got to the top of the sand dune, there was no sign of the horse. And so she continued on following the hoof prints. And when she got to the lane, the horse was definitely not in sight. So she went into a small orchard. And there was a few apple trees. And on one tree, there were 2 perfectly ripe apples. And so she picked both of them and she bit into one, and it was sweet and it was juicy with a touch of tartness. It was so good. And she wandered on down through the fields towards the creek. And as she was going towards the creek, she suddenly saw the horse. It was drinking. And when it saw her, it lifted its head and looked directly at her. And just to let the water just kind of dribble out of its mouth down its muzzle. And so she held out the other apple in her hand, and she walked very slowly towards it, so singing a soft, calming lullaby. And when she got close enough, the horse leaned its neck toward her and very gently took the apple. And if you've heard horses eating apples, that great scrunchy, crunchy sound they make. And then she offered the horse her apple core. And it took it. And it was in that split second she made the decision she would get on the horse's back. And she did. And she grabbed hold of the horse's mane, not knowing what it would do, because she'd seen it gallop in so wild within the waves. And the horse began to walk and then trot and then canter. And soon she realized that the horse was flying around the village. She could see all the familiar landscape, all the familiar landmarks. And then it headed out to the west. And they flew faster and faster, and on until at last, in the distance, Eleanor could see mountains, snow-capped mountains. And then the horse began to descend, and they went into smaller hills, the sort of the foothills, and went down into this field that was filled with wildflowers and wild grasses. And she slid from the horse's back, and she was waist deep. And the smell was exquisite, so sweet. And they waved in the breeze. And she just took time to look at each one to see if she could recognize any of these plants. And she was so immersed in this that she almost bumped into this very elegant old man. He had white hair and a white beard. And he lifted his hat and he smiled. Eleanor, I have something for you. And she wondered, had she met him before? How did he know her name? But because of his age and out of respect, she called him grandfather. And he had this gift for her. It was a woven bag that the women used when they went gathering, when they went foraging for plants that they would make into their healing tinctures and medicines. It was what they called a foraging bag. And it was something that Eleanor had really, really wanted. And he gave her this bag. And she noticed that embroidered beautifully in white thread was her name, Eleanor Rose. And then the old man, he picked a flower. Its petals were as blue as the sky and as blue as his eyes, which also sparkled. And he said, Eleanor, remember this. And he began to tell her the name of the flower, the botanical name of the plant, of where it grew well, of its healing properties, and on and on and on. And Eleanor just focused in on this plant so she could remember it. Remember this. And they spent the day, plant by plant. They probably picked about 9 plants in all. And the time just passed until there was a cool breeze. And the old man looked at her. Eleanor, It is time for me to go home. And he gave a little bow, and he turned and he walked back up to the top of the hill. And when he got to the top, he turned and he waved. And she waved and she shouted her thanks to him. And he was gone. And she was alone. And she realized she was lost. She didn't know where she was. No one knew where she was. She was so angry with herself. Oh, Eleanor Rose, she talked to herself. You always do this. You're so impetuous. Just go off on these great ideas. It was then she noticed this blue heron flying down towards the river. And she watched the flight, the path of its flight. And it went down and stood by the river's edge. And so she began to go down to the river and be with the heron. But as she got closer, there was a flash of white, and it was the horse's head lifting up, sensing her close by. He'd been eating grass, and he gave a soft whinny when he saw her, and she was so relieved and so delighted. And the horse trotted briskly over to her, and hardly waiting for her to get up onto his back. And she grabbed that mane, and off they flew. Off they flew to the east, from the direction they had come from. And on and on and on they flew, until she looked and she thought in the distance that maybe that was the sea. And as they got closer, she began to smell that sea salt, watery air and smell. And then they got closer still, and she could hear Mother Ocean, Mother Sea, as she breathed in. And she breathed out. And then they were on the sand, heading towards the waves, and the tide had turned and it was ebbing at a fast rate. And she wondered if the horse was going to slow down. And it did, very slightly. And she took the opportunity and she swung her leg over the back and patted the horse as it raced on into the waves and was taken out far into the sea. And she lost sight of it. And she began to walk slowly back along the beach. And she saw this scallop shell, that it was so white it had been bleached by the sun. She picked it up. And next to the shell, close by, was this horsehair. It was white, obviously, from the horse's tail. And she picked that up and carefully put the shell and the hair into her bag with the plants. And she continued up the beach until she heard the bell for dinner. And even though she was so tired, she raced back home so she wouldn't be late. Blessings and abundance to you all. Well, we've had a wonderful evening. Does anybody have anything to add, or do you want to call it a night? Or we were all full. We're full of stone soup, that lovely meal that Renu's friend ate. So rich. Oh, thistle honey. Oh, and Sharon's summer lunch of, what was it, salad and grapes and croissant. Really good. Thank you so much, everyone. Do you want to unmute? We shout at each other and
Thank you. Thank you, everyone. Wonderful stories.
yeah.
Yes. Yeah, so good, Katie. That one was really. Have you been working on that for a while? Because it was so just there.
Well, I hadn't, it was a story that I got years ago, and I thought I had a copy of it, but it all got lost in the fire. And so the only thing I could remember really was about the scallop shell and the white horse. So I just sort of yeah, worked on it
It's
some
just
more. And
beautiful. Now,
really,
Ellen, this kind of going back to when Eleanor was young then, because we
yes.
heard Eleanor, is such a mentor. And so I thought, I love that part. I love that where you can go back and hear about a major character because you have these intertwined stories. And I would thank you for
Oh,
telling us about Eleanor's young life and her wonderful beginnings as a wonderful healing woman. That's
yeah.
great. Love it.
Thank you, Meg.
Everybody's stories was just really, really good tonight. Thank you guys so much.
Oh, yes. Yeah, great. Oof,
Wow.
I know. Thank you all for coming.
Right.
Thank you.
Oh, yes. Yes. All right.
Yeah.
Well, we did pretty good too. When we only started out with 4, then we got 8, and it just always works. It always does.
It does. And it was so perfect how everybody just chimed in. And the
Yeah,
short stories were just wonderful too. I
right.
think we forget how powerful a short story can be. Yeah.
Yeah, yeah.
Yeah, and they
Wonderful.
don't have a whole lot of emotional baggage with them. You can just have fun.
Yes. Yeah.
And Alicia, good going at that wonderful powwow. Good for you. It's good to see you.
Oh, thank you. Yeah, it's good to be here. I wasn't feeling, not feeling at my best, but I had planned to be here, so I thought, well, I'll just
Well,
listen and
these,
you know.
these spirits these stories lift the spirits, and the
Yeah.
spirits from the stories lift us. And I'm going to go to thinking about, I'm sorry, I'm all on that horse. I am nuzzling that muzzle.
Yeah, thank you, Katie.
Yes.
And thank you,
It's wonderful.
Vicky. And thank you, Sharon, for taking the notes. I think Sharon's gone.
And you for being a great host,
Thank
Oh,
you.
hostess.
Yes, thank you.
except I
Yes.
forgot
We
about your
gotta.
announcements, Meg. I'm so sorry.
Yeah, no, that's it just was too important not to say something. Hey guys.
Yeah,
Chester was a good sport. So that's wonderful. Yeah. Great, great. Fun time.
we have fun stories. Yeah.
We'll have to use that comment. You're already on the other side. I
Yeah,
like that. I'm
that
going to
was
use that one.
a real good one.
And Deb, was that your maiden story? Have we heard? Oh, I think we might have heard one other story from you. You
One of
need to
them.
keep going, girl.
Yeah, great.
Yeah, you need to keep
Oh,
going.
I've
It's
told more.
wonderful. Yeah,
Thanks.
and it was wonderful
Yep.
to see Lori too. And Valvella, yay! Tell
Yes.
more stories with us.
Yes.
All right, guys.
Oh,
I think it's probably until next month, April, and then let's all get back together again and enjoy the stories.
yes.
Indeed.
Okay. Thank you, everyone.
Good night, everyone. Thank you.
Have a blessed weekend
Okay.
and a
Bye-bye
power.
now.
Bye.
Thank you. Bye-bye.
Bye, everybody.
Okay, so Vicky, you could wrap it up.
I can just shut this down, but this was wonderful. And thank you again, Katie, for,
Oh,
yeah.
pleasure.
You
It
did a
was
great
such a
job.
great evening. Thank you, guys. And so, Vicky, when you close it down, I'm going to then close it all off. I've got my notes